You're 18 years old, and you've already been awake for 31 consecutive hours. Your boots are filled with sand from the Negev desert. Your shoulders carry a 27-kilogram pack that has been digging into the same 2 spots on your collarbone since yesterday morning. The man standing in front of you has no rank insignia on his uniform. He doesn't need any. He looks at you the way a butcher looks at a cut of meat. Not with cruelty, but with complete professional indifference. He says 4 words, "Most of you won't." That's it. No explanation, no context. He turns and walks away into the darkness. You are one of hundreds of candidates who showed up to Gibush, the Sayeret Matkal selection process, 3 days ago. You were told it would be physically demanding. You were not told it would be designed to make you quit. There's a difference. Physical pain has a ceiling. The psychological architecture of Gibush has no ceiling at all. By the end of day 1, dozens of candidates had already placed their kit on the ground and walked to the truck. The instructors call it leaving the weapon. You leave your rifle on the ground and you get in the truck and you go home. No shame, no ceremony, just gone. You have not left your weapon. But standing here now at hour 31, with your legs shaking and your vision blurring at the edges, you understand for the first time that wanting to stay is not the same as being able to stay. The question Gibush is actually asking is not, how tough are you? The question is, who are you when there is nothing left? You don't know the answer yet, but you are about to find out.
Chapter 2, The Breaking. By day 4 of Gibush, you have slept a total of 3 hours and 40 minutes. Not in one stretch, in fragments. 20 minutes here, 40 minutes there, always interrupted by a whistle, a shout, or the sound of boots on gravel outside your tent. Your body has entered a state that isn't quite wakefulness and isn't quite sleep. You move through tasks on autopilot. You eat without tasting. You run without feeling your legs. The instructors call this the gray zone. It's the place where your conscious mind stops making decisions and your training, or lack of it, takes over completely. This is what they're actually testing. Not your muscles, not your lungs. Your default settings. On the morning of day 4, they give you a navigation exercise. You have a map, a compass, and a 6-kilometer route through rocky terrain in complete darkness. You have 94 minutes to complete it, alone. At kilometer 3, you make a wrong turn. You realize it 11 minutes later. You have now lost 11 minutes you don't have. Your brain, running on 3 hours of sleep, starts offering you options. Quit, sit down, it doesn't matter. The thoughts arrive not as panic, but as calm, reasonable suggestions. That's the most dangerous part. You don't sit down. You recalculate. You run the remaining 3.4 kilometers in 38 minutes over terrain that should take 45. You arrive at the checkpoint with 4 minutes to spare, bleeding from both knees where you fell twice in the dark. The instructor at the checkpoint looks at your knees, looks at his watch, writes something on his clipboard, says nothing. You will never know what he wrote, but you passed something in yourself that night that no one can ever take back. The gray zone tried to convince you that stopping was reasonable. You proved it wrong. That proof lives in your body now, not your mind, and it will be the only thing that saves you in the years ahead.
Chapter 3, The Acceptance. On day 5, they tell you that you've passed Gibush, not with a ceremony, not with applause. A man hands you a folded piece of paper with your name on it in a reporting date. That's it. You look around. Out of the hundreds of candidates who started, 21 of you are holding paper. The rest are already gone. Home, back to their regular units, back to a version of their life that will never include what you're about to enter. You are 18 years old, and you have just been accepted into Sayeret Matkal. You don't feel triumphant. You feel something closer to vertigo. Because the paper in your hand isn't a reward, it's an entry ticket to a 20-month training pipeline that the unit itself describes internally as the actual selection. Gibush, you will later understand, was just the filter. The training that follows is simply called unit training. You will learn Krav Maga to a level of hand-to-hand lethality that the unit treats as a primary weapon system. You will learn halo and hey-ho parachute insertion, fast rope techniques from UH-60 Blackhawks, in cold weather survival and mountain warfare training, in conditions that break men who thought selection already proved them. You will also learn Arabic, not conversational Arabic, operational Arabic, the kind that lets you pass as a civilian in a Beirut market or a Damascus side street for 47 minutes without triggering suspicion. Your instructors are men in their 30s and 40s who never talk about what they've done. You will notice, over time, that some of them have a particular quality, a stillness that isn't calm. It's the stillness of someone who has been in situations where movement meant death, and the habit never fully left. You want to become that. You don't yet understand what it costs. Chapter 4. The First Real Night. You are 21 years old, 14 months into unit training, and tonight is not an exercise. The briefing happens in a room with no windows, 11 meters underground in a facility whose location you were driven blindfolded. There are 6 men in the room, including you. The officer running the briefing speaks for 23 minutes, using a map that will be destroyed when he's done. The target is a 3-story building in a town 14 kilometers inside Lebanese territory. There is a man on the 2nd floor who has been coordinating rocket supply routes into northern Israel for the past 8 months. He is not to be captured. He is to be removed from the operational picture. That is the phrase they use, removed from the operational picture. You insert by foot across the border at 1:17 in the morning, moving in a 6-man column through terrain that your team leader has memorized from satellite imagery. No lights, no radio traffic, hand signals only. The ground is rocky and uneven, and you cover 14 kilometers in 2 hours and 11 minutes without a single sound that wasn't the wind. The building is exactly where the map said it would be. The man is exactly where the intelligence said he would be. 2nd floor, northeast room, asleep. The operation takes 4 minutes and 47 seconds from breach to extraction. You were back across the border by 5:42 in the morning. In the debrief, the officer asks each man one question. What did you see that we didn't plan for? You tell him about a dog that was chained near the east wall that wasn't in the intelligence package. He writes it down. That's the entire debrief. On the drive back, no one speaks. You stare out the window at the pre-dawn sky and realize that the version of you that existed before tonight no longer exists. Something was replaced. You're not sure yet what it was replaced with.
Chapter 5. The Gray List. You are 24 years old. You have been on 37 operations. Officially, none of them happened. There is no record of your deployments in any database accessible to the Israeli public. Your personnel file, if someone were to pull it, would show a series of training rotations and administrative postings. The operations, the 14 cross-border intelligence collections, the 9 direct action missions, the 7 hostage-adjacent support operations, the 7 others that don't fit into any category, exist only in classified files that require a clearance level most Israeli generals don't hold. Your mother calls every Sunday at 6 p.m. You answer when you can. When you can't, you call her back within 48 hours. She asks how you are. You say, fine. She asks what you've been doing. You say, training. This has been the conversation for 6 years. Your younger brother got married 4 months ago. You were there for 3 hours of the reception before your phone vibrated with a message that contained a single number, a code that meant wheels up in 90 minutes. You hugged your brother. You told him you had to go. He nodded. He's been nodding at that sentence his entire life. Inside the unit, you are now what they call a mem, a team commander. You are responsible for 5 men, their lives, their training, their psychological state, their readiness. You know things about each of them that their wives don't know. You know which one freezes for exactly 1.3 seconds when a plan changes mid-operation. You know which one gets quieter, not louder when he's afraid, and that the quiet is actually more reliable than the noise. You have also started to notice something in yourself. The operations don't feel like anything anymore, not in a traumatic way, not in a way that wakes you up at night. They feel like work, precise, technical, consequential work, but work. The first time you understood this about yourself, sitting in a debrief 3 years ago, you felt something that took you a long time to name.
You felt afraid of yourself. Not of what you'd done, of how little it cost you to do it. Chapter 6, The Entebbe Echo. You are 27 years old, and they give you a mission that has a name. Most operations don't have names. They have numbers, codes, administrative designations. But this one has a name, and when the briefing officer says it, every man in the room goes still. Not from fear, from weight. The name carries the history of the unit. The 1976 Entebbe Rescue, the Spring of Youth operation, part of Israel's response to Munich. Every named mission in Sayeret Matkal history is a mission where the margin for error was measured in seconds and the cost of failure was measured in lives. This mission has a name because it is that kind of mission. There are 4 Israeli civilians being held in a location 340 kilometers from the nearest Israeli border. The holding facility has 23 armed guards operating in rotating shifts of 8. There are 2 entry points, both covered. The hostages are in a basement level that doesn't appear on any publicly available architectural record. Your team has 11 days to plan, rehearse, and execute. You spend 9 of those 11 days on a full-scale replica of the target building, constructed in a classified training facility in the Negev. You run the breach 47 times. You run it in daylight, you run it in darkness. You run it with simulated casualties. You run it with the plan changed at the last minute. You run it until the 47th repetition feels identical to the first, because on the night of the actual operation, your body needs to know the building better than your mind does. On the night of the operation, you insert by helicopter 6 kilometers from the target and move on foot. The breach takes 3 minutes and 14 seconds. All 4 hostages are recovered. 2 of your men take non-fatal wounds, 1 to the left shoulder, 1 a graze across the right forearm. 3 of the 23 guards are neutralized, the rest scatter into the darkness. You are wheels up with the hostages 7 minutes after breach. In the helicopter, one of the hostages, a woman 34 years old, a teacher from Haifa, grabs your arm and says thank you in a voice that sounds like it's coming from somewhere very far away. You nod. You don't say anything. You don't know how to explain that you're not sure what to do with gratitude anymore, that the part of you that used to receive it has been replaced by something quieter and harder and more useful, but also more alone.
Chapter 7, The Contractor Offer. You are 31 years old. You have been in Sayeret Matkal for 13 years, and a man in a gray suit meets you at a cafe in Tel Aviv and slides a business card across the table. The card has a company name, Meridian Strategic Consulting, and a phone number, nothing else. The man is 47 years old, former Mossad, and he doesn't waste time. He tells you that your current salary as a unit commander is 14,200 shekels a month. He tells you that the number on the other side of that business card is $340,000 a year, tax-free, deposited into an account in Cyprus. He tells you the work is familiar. You turn the card over. There's a single word on the back, consulting. You know what it means. You've known men who took this path. Some of them you've seen in briefings, not as colleagues but as assets. Men who used to wear the same uniform you wear, now operating in the spaces between governments, between laws, between accountability. You tell him you'll think about it. You go home that night to your apartment in Ramat Gan. It's a good apartment, 74 square meters, 3rd floor, a view of the city. You've lived there for 4 years and there are still boxes you haven't unpacked. Your last relationship ended 2 years ago. She said she felt like she was living with a ghost. You didn't argue. You understood exactly what she meant. You sit at your kitchen table and you think about the business card. You think about the 37 operations that officially never happened. The 13 years of your life that exist in classified files. The Sunday phone calls where you say fine and training. The wedding you left after 3 hours. The boxes you never unpacked because some part of you always knew you might have to leave quickly. You think about the teacher from Haifa who grabbed your arm in the helicopter and said, "Thank you." You think about how you didn't know what to do with it. You pick up the business card, you put it in your pocket. You don't call the number that night, but you don't throw the card away either. And that
you will later understand, was the decision. Chapter 8. The Ghost. You are 34 years old. You took the card. You have been working for Meridian Strategic Consulting for 3 years. Your official title is Senior Security Advisor. What you actually do is run 2 to 4-man teams on operations that governments need completed but cannot officially authorize. The clients are corporations, intelligence agencies, and occasionally governments that need a layer of separation between themselves and the outcome. The money is exactly what the man in the gray suit promised: $340,000 a year, deposited quarterly into an account in Cyprus, under a name that is legally yours, but that you've never used for anything else. You have $1.2 million in that account. You have another $400,000 in an account in Singapore. You have $180,000 in cash in a safety deposit box in Zurich. You live in Lisbon now, a 3-bedroom apartment in the Alfama district, 1,400 euros a month, paid in cash. You have a Portuguese SIM card, a Belgian passport, and a cover story about working in maritime logistics. Your neighbors think your name is David Rice. You speak to your mother less now, not because you want to, because the operational security requirements of your current life make regular contact a liability. She is noticed. She doesn't say so directly, but you can hear it in the 3-second pause before she says, "I'm glad you called." A pause that wasn't there 5 years ago. Last month, you ran an operation in Istanbul. The target was a man who had been selling European infrastructure vulnerability data to a state actor your client declined to name. The operation took 6 days of surveillance and 11 minutes of execution. The target had a photo of a dog on his windowsill, a golden retriever maybe, 2 years old, in a park somewhere. He looked like anyone's father. He looked like yours. You completed the operation. You flew back to Lisbon the next morning. You had espresso at the same cafe on Rua do Secolo at 7:15. You read the news on your phone. You will not read about Istanbul.
You did not read about Istanbul. You will not read about Istanbul. That is the point. That has always been the point. You are 34 years old and you're very good at your job, and you are completely invisible, and you are the most alone you have ever been in your life. Chapter 9. The Reckoning. You are 38 years old, and for the first time in 20 years, you make a mistake. Not a tactical mistake, not a planning failure, a human mistake. The kind that happens when the part of you that was supposed to stay switched off quietly turns itself back on at the worst possible moment. The operation is in Athens. The target is a logistics coordinator for a network moving weapons-grade materials through the Aegean. The surveillance package is clean. The plan is clean. You've run cleaner operations in worse conditions. But on day 3 of surveillance, you see the target pick up a child from school, a girl, maybe 7 years old, with a red backpack. She runs to him, and he catches her and swings her in a circle, and she laughs. You have seen this before. You have seen targets with families before. It has never mattered before. It matters now. You don't abort the operation, you complete it, but you take 4 extra hours to restructure the execution so the girl is guaranteed to be at school when it happens. Those 4 hours cost you the optimal window. You execute in a suboptimal window. There is a complication. Your exit route is compromised. You spend 11 hours in a parking structure in Piraeus waiting for a secondary extraction that your team leader has to improvise from scratch. In the debrief, your team leader, a former SAS man named Callum, who has been doing this for 14 years, looks at you across the table and says nothing for a long time. Then he says, "The girl." You say, "Yes." He nods. He closes his folder. He says, "It happens." You don't know if that's reassurance or a warning. You fly back to Lisbon. You sit in your apartment.
You think about a girl with a red backpack who will grow up not knowing that a man she will never meet restructured an operation around her safety and then spent 11 hours in a parking structure in Piraeus because of it. You think about whether that makes you better or worse than what you've become. You don't reach a conclusion. You're not sure there is one. Chapter 10, The Cycle. You are 42 years old. You are done. Not fired, not burned, not compromised. You simply wake up one morning in your Lisbon apartment and understand with complete clarity that you are finished. The decision arrives not as a crisis, but as a fact, the way you might notice that it's raining or that you're hungry, clean, certain, final. You call the number from Meridian. You speak to a man you've never met in person. You tell him you're out. He asks if there's a problem. You say no. He says there are 2 operations in the pipeline with your name on them. You say reassign them. There's a pause. He says understood. That's it. 20 years of invisible work. In the exit is a 4-minute phone call. You have $2.1 million across accounts in Cyprus, Singapore, and Zurich. You have a Belgian passport and a Portuguese SIM card and a cover story about maritime logistics. You have an apartment in Alfama that your neighbors think belongs to a man named David Rice. You sit on your balcony and watch the city. Lisbon is beautiful in the morning. The light comes off the Tagus River in a way that makes everything look like it's been washed clean. You have lived here for 8 years, and this is the first morning you have actually looked at it. Your mother's number is still in your phone. You haven't called in 4 months. You pick up the phone. You dial. She answers on the second ring. She says your name, your real name, not David Rice, not any of the operational names, your actual name. And something in your chest moves in a way it hasn't moved in a very long time. She asks how you are. You say, I'm coming home. There is a silence. Then she says, I'll make dinner. You sit on the balcony for a long time after you hang up. You think about an 18-year-old standing in the Negev desert at 3 in the morning, holding a 27-kilogram pack, being told that most of them won't make it. You think about what that boy wanted, what he was willing to sacrifice, what he thought the sacrifice would be worth. Somewhere in Israel right now, another 18-year-old is standing in that same desert, same darkness, same pack, same man with no rank insignia telling him that most of them won't. The boy doesn't know yet what it costs. No one tells him. That's part of the design. The question that will follow you for the rest of your life isn't whether it was worth it. The question is simpler and harder than that. At what exact moment did the mission become more real than the life you were living it for? Share this if it made you think. Subscribe for more.